Hello, welcome to TrueHoop with me, Jarod, Hector, and Coach David Thorpe. How are you, sir?
Little sad, Jarod.
Yeah. Max went back to school. Coach Thorpe had his main man with him for the last week or two? Last 2 weeks, I think he's been with you.
Oh, he's been almost 3 weeks. I mean, I was with them in Dominican Republic for a week, and then with graduation in Tallahassee and LA, and 2 weeks here. And my daughter starts her senior year today, which is her first day. I texted her this morning. Life gets on. My wife and I are happy. We're happy empty nesters, but it is. We watched Swingers on Friday night. I don't know what night with my son, and I remember watching that movie when I was pretty much their age on the show, and so we could easily be their dads now. So it's just a reminder that we're getting old in the tooth, my guy.
Yes, but you're enjoying yourself. You're having some fun when you see them. And I know all of these moments with them, Max and or Rachel, but more Max recently because Rachel's been in school.
Right.
And you cherish them. I know, and you hold on to them tight like a big Papa Bear, right? Because you're like, how many are there? You're already thinking, how many more do I have left, right? This is back of your head.
Yeah. They both could be. They have Max has an option. He can play another year after this if he wants, or he can go get another master's somewhere else, or he can take a job somewhere. My daughter could take a job. In fact, I just told her yesterday I'm going to fly her and her mom as a graduation present to New York, I think in January, even though she won't graduate until April, because she might get a job the day after she graduates. She might be going to work full time. Mm-hmm. And I want to take one final trip, at least with her mom. I'll be busy with the NBA. So yeah, it happens quickly, but I will say this. My son could have stayed a few more days, but he has a life in Tallahassee. That's his home now. Mm-hmm. And he's moving to a new place. He just texted me. He needs to get Wi-Fi and helping his roommates check in and whatever and move in. His job is not to keep us happy. His job is to go live his life. And we'll be just fine. That's what my wife and I, we always high five when they leave. Like, we're very lucky. I mean, we know how lucky we are, but still. Yeah, I 40 years ago I started college myself. It would have been. It's hard to swallow that number. 40 fucking years ago. Yeah, that's a challenge, my man. It's not easy. Not easy.
Ferris Bueller said it, I believe. Life comes at you fast, right? I mean, that's just how it goes.
I don't feel 18 anymore, but I mean, I feel in my 20s until I move anyway, or look in the mirror, which I try to avoid the mirror as much as I can. Yeah. But we got basketball coming up here.
We do have basketball coming.
Yeah, Friday.
Yeah. Team USA. We'll get to them a little bit later. Before we jump into that, we are going to do some Ask Coach Thorpe questions because that is what we do here. So, got a great question from listener Brett. He comes from a non-Euro stepping generation. He was very clear to put that out there, which I thought was funny. And he's like, I'm curious what Coach Thorpe does to teach defense technique for the Euro step. More specifically, how do you slow down a player like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's Euro step to get to his mid-range jumper and his to-the-rim game? Praise probably the first thing you tell them, right? Because it's fucking SJ and he's really good. But what do you teach them, David?
So you have to look at it from a bigger picture point of view. It's really a great question. The job of a defender is to make the offensive player take a shot that's less likely to go in than he might otherwise take. And so Euro step can be the better option compared to, like, for example, let's say you've got a guy that does not finish well with his left hand and he's going left. Well, if you let him Euro to the right, well, he gets to finish with the hand that he wants to finish with in the first place. So that would be a mistake by the defense. So we teach, among other things, starting with don't get them straight line to the rim. Make them deal with you, especially if you're there to take a charge or whatever. Also, don't let him finish the way he wants to finish, which would be right hand for a right-handed finisher, a better right-hand finisher, left hand for a left-hand finisher. Make them do something different. The Euro step can be very challenging. It frequently, almost always actually, requires a deceleration to avoid the charge, which is what they're stepping around. Well, that deceleration allows a little more time for the helpers to come to make a play on the ball. And so that's a factor. So I don't mind forcing Euro steps sometimes, depending on who I'm dealing with. SGA, then you're talking about the best driver in the league right now, probably the best in the world, who's got size, athleticism, craft, and all of that. So what you want to do with someone like that is kind of keep them guessing. Don't let him dictate to you, whereas offensively he wants to dictate. In other words, I'm going to force the defender to do X and I'm going to do Y. I'm going to show and go. That's what we always talk about in our gym, show and go. Could be go same direction, could be go opposite direction. We want to flip that defensively is let me see if I can make him do something. I just literally, you'll see it. I said it to the group that you're in, where Tyrese Halliburton in a game the other night kind of stunted at the 2-on-1 break guy and forced him into a Euro right to where Tyrese was, and Tyrese stripped him. So that's what you want to do defensively is see if you can't force the offensive player into doing something that you know is coming, and then you may be more prepared to make a play down low or up high, depending on how tall and athletic and long you are. You don't want to be just reactive, though, because then you're screwed against a high-level score. If you're just reacting to them, you got to try to dictate something.
Yep. That's
easier said than done, but that's why we practice and study tape.
Exactly. And, you got to work on the defensive end of the game, of the court as much as you do on the offensive side. It is half the game. Next question comes from Raymond from the Canary Islands in Spain. Look at that, David. We have listeners all over the world.
We do.
So he wanted to ask you about the arrival of NBA veterans to Europe. Sterling Brown, the Frank Kaminsky, the Hernan Gomez brothers, Jabari Parker, Kemba, etc. He says most of them weren't expecting a guaranteed contract anytime soon. But I wonder if it might have to do with Damian Lillard's statement about how rejuvenated the league is nowadays. What do you think?
I don't remember seeing Dame say that. I would love to go visit the Canary Islands. Hello.
Who wouldn't?
happy to speak there. So I think, first of all, in most cases, those European players would stay in the NBA if they could, but not always. There are plenty of players that, for the money they make overseas, they got to be home. Some of these guys have kids, and their moms and dads and aunts and uncles and siblings live in their home country or over there. If you're in Spain, it's pretty easy to get around to other countries. As it's like traveling around the states here, sure. Georgia to Arkansas to Ellis to Louisiana, whatever. So it just makes it easier for a family guy. And they like also to be rock stars. They're role players here. All those guys could go to the mall anytime they want. Nobody would know who they are. Right. They just know they're a tall dude. But in the EuroLeague or in Euro Cup action, they could be one of the better players on their team. Yep. So that's a factor too. I do think it's the best league in the world, and more players than ever are bubbling up into that conversation of being an NBA player. So we're very deep. The league is very deep.
I think that's the best way to look at it, because one of the things I always think about is that especially people like Rick Barry, who's a known hater, right? Who loves to say that, man, these guys in my day, blah blah blah, so much better, all this crap, right? But what I think is clearly evident is that the average NBA starter in today's NBA far better than the average NBA starter in Rick Barry's prime NBA, right? And so as that talent level continues to bubble up, baseline, it's just harder, man. There's just too many good people. So if you don't have multiple skills, how are you going to stick?
So a couple of things. I saw the Rick Barry interview. It makes me sad in part because I like his sons, two of them. I know a couple of them. My dad's dad, my papa, who's been dead 40 years now, in December it'll be 40 years. He died in 1983. I was a freshman in college. He had season tickets. He was a dentist in Miami Beach after World War II. And he would see Rick Barry play, and he was a big Rick Barry fan. My papa would not be saying the things that he'd been dead a long time, but it's a very bright, big thinker. He would not be talking the way Rick Barry talks, sadly. But on that exact subject, when I watched him, I understand what people like him are saying, where they feel like, people can just focus on this job and that's it, and they don't have to get a second job. And maybe some of those guys would have the work ethic that's required to master some skills. And maybe Rick Barry is one of them. Yep. But there's no reason we don't know that those great players from the 60s and 70s would be willing to put in the time that it takes to excel now in the weight room. I know they didn't have weight rooms the same, but that's hard. That's hard work. There's a lot of players now don't put that work in and don't bubble up into it. There are players who didn't make the league probably back then that would make it now because that they could do. They would be willing to put in the work. Something else was going on with them. They didn't get a chance or whatever. But yeah, we don't know how they'd react in today's climate. I know last 2 weeks, the latest I've started a workout is 8 a.m. The last 2 weeks, the latest I've started is 8 o'clock in the morning. That's not early,
right? But
I know plenty of people in the summertime have no interest in doing that. And maybe Rick Barry, a lot of his teammates would be those guys that they don't want to be so focused on the details and watch what they eat and not smoke cigarettes and on and on and on. Right. Those are all important aspects to a personality that make the NBA players who they are now.
Absolutely. Way more to it than just, these guys fly commercial and fly charter planes and all that. Way, way more to it than that. Last question comes from a listener, John. He understands the brilliance of Nikola Jokic, but he wants to know, where does Michael Malone stand on the list of best coaches in the NBA?
I've never been his biggest fan.
True.
I was also never a hater. It clearly was good. I mean, I think he probably ranks very high. I thought he was a panicker, and I thought that he made a mistake in getting rid of Reggie Jackson and Thomas Bryant from rotation, and I was wrong. He clearly knew what he was doing. Swept the Lakers and beat the Heat on 5.
Which pretty much swept the Heat,
yeah.
Too. I mean, it's for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, right. They lost 1 game. So they won 8 of the last 9 games against solid opponents. Yeah, and sure, he got lucky in a couple cases, but luck is always part of it, or often part of it. I know from inside the Nuggets organization that it's a well-run group team-wise. Forget about Calvin Booth, who I like too. The team is prepared. They scout well. They execute well. They have allowed Jokic to reach his potential. It isn't just a one-way street. You have to be in that river that's flowing. You can't just be super talented and be in a bad polluted river and reach your potential. And so I think Mike deserves credit for all that. Not solely, but plenty of it. And I don't have to be your biggest fan to recognize he's one of the better coaches. He's not in Spo's world right now, but I'm not naive enough to say that he can't be one day considered the best coach in the league. He might have won 2 or 3 in a row if it wasn't for injuries.
Yeah,
that's how good Jokic is. Let's see what they do this year, but he's definitely on the higher level. Top 10 or so, I'd put him in right now.
And look, and to be fair, who you have on your team matters, right? Pop said it all the time. Pop, what was your transformation in coaching? We drafted Tim Duncan, right? It's you. Good players help you. Now you have to be willing to give them the royal jelly, all the things they need to develop and turn into who they are. But you can't do it with nobody, right? You have to be a two-way street.
Tim Duncan would not have been that player he was if Sam Mitchell was his coach the whole time.
That's true.
I'm just saying. And not just Sam Mitchell. There's a whole bunch of them. Maybe Stan Van Gundy would be bad for him. There are some guys, there are some players who just react best to some coaches and not as well to others. I don't know Tim Duncan. I know that it was a perfect marriage, and it wasn't just Tim Duncan raising the Spurs. The Spurs had a share in it for sure. And so, Jokic has helped Mike Malone tremendously. But how do we argue what Malone's done for him? Yeah. Because you can't. He's done a great job for him.
And in the Nuggets organization, right? This guy was a 2nd-round draft pick and was chubby, right? And so if anybody says they saw multiple no, lies. You didn't see that.
No.
Oh, not you. I meant those guys. Then.
Well, he was already a first-team All-NBA player.
No. I meant when they drafted him. When he was
right.
No one saw that when he.
No one saw it.
Come on.
No. Definitely not. 100% not.
But you had to put him in the environment to see what could happen. And a couple of players said, his first summer league, they were like, and Malone said this, wow, some of these passes this guy makes. So they knew that. They're like, he sees the game and thinks the game on a level that we've never seen before. If we can figure out this body part, I think we'll be fine. And, well, they figured out the body part.
So you saw that Tony Parker said Dirk was the best European of all time.
I did see that.
And during very cool. Mm-hmm. It meant a lot to Dirk to hear that from Tony, who did really amazing and is in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. But Jokic is going to be that guy.
Jokic, right? I think, might already be that guy.
Right, I agree. Thing is, he's the best European. Maybe Sabonis, we didn't see him. So in their prime, best NBA European of all time.
The problem we do these best of whatever, you're doing a resume comparison. And, well, he hasn't, and first of all, Jokic's already got 2 MVPs. So, I mean, whatever. 2, which none of them have, right? And an NBA title, which yes, Tony has 4 of them, but whatever. He has no league MVPs. But ultimately, when I'm just talking about in their peak, players who I've seen from Europe, and again, I didn't see Arvydas in his peak, so I don't know. I heard he was amazing. But of all those guys, I've seen them at their peak. It's Jokic. He's the best, and it ain't close to me. Yeah. He's really, really good.
Yeah, I agree.
But, that's all we have these debates. It's fun. People love having them. Let's take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back to talk Team USA. Okay, David, Team USA wrapped up their exhibition schedule. Let's see, 4-0 or 5-0. Either way, they won all their games. They did not lose a game. Last night was interesting, though. They went on an 18-0 run, or yesterday afternoon, to beat Germany. They were down big in that game.
A late 18-0 run, fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm. And, what I've said about this team and what we've said stands, right? Which is because of the size of our country and, where we are with the game, our depth is always going to be better than most other teams in the world, right? We may not have the best player on our team, right? See Slovenia with Luka Doncic, etc. But players 3 through 12, we're probably going to be better than most guys. And that is enough usually to mean you have more talent. But in World Cup basketball or any kind of tournaments, this ain't a best of 7 series. You got group play, okay, you advance out of that. But after that, it's single elimination. We got a bad shooting night or whatever happens, we're going to lose. And this team ain't great at shooting, number one. So that could definitely happen. But what are things you're seeing from Team USA in the exhibition round that you liked or didn't like?
Well, first of all, to add to what your list was of advantages that we have, starting with our gigantic country. I mean, if we were doing state by state, there's no state that would win. Right? There's many countries that would be better than some of them. Florida, California, Texas, New York, they would all lose. Mm-hmm. But in addition to everything else, we also have a very experienced head coach
and staff. Oh my God, it's so good.
Yeah, that's it, and staff, right? Spoelstra. Who's Spoelstra?
Kerr's the head coach, and Mark Few from Gonzaga. I mean, that's pretty,
Mark's I forgot. So that matters. It matters when you get into the crunch time moments, and you'll see why I say that, because you and I can do something fun in a minute. There's, these teams are competing. The great writer John Feinstein wrote a book about the Ryder Cup, and it's the best sports book I've ever read. I want to count basketball, and these are the world's best golfers in the Ryder Cup. I think it was in the 90s. I read it. He wrote it, and they all said way more nervous playing for their country than when they're playing on their own. Now, these guys are playing on a team as opposed to on their own, but I'm not saying they're just as nervous. I've not asked them. I've never even asked all the guys I've had, but I know it matters to a lot of them. Not that our country deserves to be beloved all the time, but they know it's an honor. All these players know it's an honor to play for Team USA. And they also recognize the 92 team. And that lineage now is a big deal. So there's pressure. And having a head coach that's well-respected. No, I just don't see much pushback to Steve Kerr. Not with what he's done. I mean, when I say no pushback, I mean none. There'll be a conversation, which is how it should be. It's a big advantage. A lot of these national teams, their coaches come and go, and there's controversy sometimes in politics where some guys aren't necessarily deserving and have not been in the kind of games. I mean, Kerr is just coach. Think about one of the advantages of playing in series is he's had countless pressure games, countless closeout wins, countless not lose and you're done. He's had some of those. But a whole bunch of really important up 2-1, down 2-1.
As a player,
that really matters.
As a player and as a head coach, he's had them both.
Right. I forgot about that. Right. So I think those things matter. The first thing that jumped out at me, there's a few things. I've not studied them. I'm going to start focusing more now. I don't love our defense other than Jaren Jackson inside. So I'm concerned about, Mikal Bridges is one guy. We don't have many. Josh Hart is good. But I'm concerned about that because I don't think we're an amazing offensive team. I don't know how good of a shooting team we are. We've got some guys that can shoot, as you would expect. But it doesn't matter in any one-game situation. We were talking today on our phone call. if we could add, Travis, our editor, asked if we could add one player. My initial answer was Curry, just to give us one more brilliant shooter. And then I said, well, maybe it should be KD. How about both?
We'll take them both.
Two. Yeah, that really it more than doubles your chances of just having no bad shooting games when you had guys like that on your team. So that's a concern. Defense, shooting is always, although I do think we can be a good shooting team. I don't know what leadership we really have. Jaren Jackson's young. He's been good. Anthony Edwards is 21.
Brunson
turns 22. Jalen Brunson is absolutely deserving of being that guy. I'm a fan of his. He plays differently. I read Smart Person today. You've heard the term bully ball. We all talk about bully ball. She didn't. Her name's Caitlin Cooper. Didn't write this, but I was thinking he plays burrow ball. He burrows into spots. That's my new thing from burrow ball. Let's see if we'll catch that on if that goes viral, because that's how he plays. He burrows to a spot and then reads the game. So he is a good leader, but he's never been in the conference finals. He's won a college championship or two, maybe. Yeah, two, right. So that matters. That's a tournament though, like this is. So that helps. But I don't like our one more pass attitude right now. I don't think Tyrese is really gifted passer. Very obvious that he buys into that. Not always what you see in Indiana, even though he did get a lot of assists. He should. The ball's in his hands 90% of the time. But I don't think I've seen too many plays where we made the shot, but my instinct was, ooh, that was a one more. That was a one more. That was a one more. And we're just young guys. We're not doing that enough yet.
No, you see it. And I think, one of the things we talk about, of course, always is the seeming advantage that a lot of the other nations have as teams in terms of their system and how they play. Most of those guys, Simon Sands, the NBA stars, play together all the time, right? For the national team, and there's a familiarity. And we talked about it on our show, Tactics. They run plays in tactics, right? Not that we don't here, but learning the Cuisinart, that takes some time. And Kerr didn't implement the whole Cuisinart because there's not enough time to do all that.
Not even close.
Not enough time to do that. But you could see there are parts of that ball movement and player movement that he wants them to do. And in that game in Germany in particular, I saw a lot of that, Coach, where it's like you needed the one extra pass here, you need the one extra cut, but guys just like instinctively, like I saw Brandon Ingram do a lot of this. Fuck, I'm just gonna take it and go. And it's like, I get it, Bi, you're super gifted at scoring, but maybe there might have been a better play here. Edwards is the same thing. Now, granted, he was making them, so it was good, but it's like, what happens when you're not making them? Then what?
That's the other thing. Tough shot makers. He's one. Brunson's one. I don't know we have many others that you can expect to just really bail us out of possessions. Austin Reeves got a chance. I doubt it'll be for this year. Cam Johnson, not going to do it. Just a catch and shoot guy. So Josh Hart, no. So it's a quality team that could very well win the World Cup because I don't know there's any great talent in the World Cup. This is not normal, right? Normally it's going to be 2 years World Cup, Olympic, 2 year break, right?
The COVID thing pushed COVID pushed the 2020 games back a year, so that's why we're back up because we had Eurobasket last year, so we're a little bit out of sorts with our scheduling. I will say, look, Luka's playing for Slovenia, and we know how that goes. Like that dude, he can control the whole game by himself. So if he's hot and doing his thing, they could definitely lose to them because he's Luka.
Yeah, we'll have some guys to put on him. I imagine we'll have some zones and doubles and stuff to make other people do it, but we're also capable of just shooting badly, which is how we lose typically. It's not a series; it's just a tournament, one game.
You mentioned Tyrese Halliburton. I was watching some of the clips from Team USA scrimmages and practices. They had him mic'd up, and in Indiana you see this, but like I didn't see it as much. And it's interesting when these guys get together, David, in this format because they're with. Not that he's not with his peers on Indiana. But he's with other people who are at his level or higher, right? So it's a very different thing about, who's the man? Who's like the pecking order and all that sort of thing. And I just love his energy, his leadership, the way he's talking to the guys. Jarod Jackson was talking to him. He's like, what are you looking forward to? Oh, playing with Tyrese Halliburton. Why? His superpower is passing. It's great. And you see how his eyes lit up. And it's this idea of, I think every player would tell you that, right? Maybe not every player, but I think most players like an offense where everyone gets to touch and share the ball. I think it's more fun, right? And so a lot of the guys like playing with Tyrese, and he seems to be that kind of leader guy. I remember in one of the scrimmages, there's a clip of him going, no, on that next one, show here. And then and he's really getting his guys to do what he wants them to do. And I think it's nice for a young man like him who has the potential to, in 2024, make the Olympic team and be, part of that process.
Exactly right. Yeah, I think that we need more guys like him. And we'll talk about another subject where we'll bring about Tyrese and just that charisma. Who doesn't want to play with a good passer? No one. Nobody doesn't want to play with a good passer. It uplifts everybody. It raises all the boats.
No, he's wonderful, and I enjoy him. We mentioned Anthony Edwards. Coach Kerr said something interesting after the game.
Yeah.
He said, Anthony Edwards is the guy. And I said, oh. And listen, as you said, no pushback from Kerr, well respected. Well, I'm Anthony Edwards, and I just heard 4-time head coach champ, whatever, but say I'm the guy. As a player like Edwards, who doesn't need any more confidence because he has all the confidence in the world, that's got to make him feel a certain kind of way. And I want to talk about it in relation to what you and I talked about a few weeks ago, which was who can ramp themselves up and elevate based on their play this summer, like we saw last year with Laurie at Euro and all that sort of thing. And a lot of people are saying this, but this is why we have you here, because you are the smart basketball brain, and tell people to calm down. Is Anthony Edwards, now that Steve Kerr says he's the guy, let's say he's our leading scorer, whatever, does that mean he now is a future superstar of the NBA, league MVP type guy, best player in the world, which very few people can get to that level?
Not because of the MVP thing, but to me, to be that guy, you're doing all the little things too. And that's where guys like Anthony and Tyrese, they're very young. Edwards turns 22 this year. Tyrese turns 24. I think maybe in 2024 he turns 24. I think he's a 2000 baby. I think he's 23 now, but I think he turns 24 after the season.
2000 baby.
After the middle of the season.
24 in February. Yep.
Okay, yeah. So these are young guys, and so how do they navigate screens defensively? How active are they in the defensive glass? How's their closeout chase game? How are they handling screens off the ball? How are they handling a teammate really struggling? I think in Tyrese's case, he'll be great at that. There's a lot of these other factors that are involved with winning. And I think that Steve Kerr and Eric Spoelstra is coaching these guys up to do that, to do those things. In fact, I said off air, how excited is Spo to teach Paolo Banchero how to be more of a winner? Because that dude is super talented. I'm a huge fan. He's a big guy, very gifted passer, which I love about him when you can pass at that size. And he likes to do it. But he's not a winning player yet. But he can learn to be. No reason to think he won't learn. And I actually like the coaching staff for Orlando. But this is Eric Spoelstra. And Steve Kerr. So getting those guys, Edwards and those guys, to do all those little things too, can definitely have an impact on them going into the 82-game season if they bring it, far more often than not.
It's not just the scoring, right, David? And the thing about it is no,
it's not the scoring at all.
As good as Edwards is as a scorer, he's not Steph Curry as a scorer. You know what I mean? He's not at that uber elite level as a scorer. He's very good.
I mean, he's 21. He's 21.
Could get better, for sure. Could get much better. But I think your point is correct about all the other little things. And maybe he could be. It's just, guys, that whole idea of being the best player in the world, it's fucking hard, man. Really, really hard to be that guy.
So it's funny. You said that, what would that mean knowing 4-time champ Steve Kerr said he's the guy? Edwards, his unconscious is saying, tell me something I don't know.
I'm the guy.
I've been the guy, Steve. Right? That's how we always play. But, and this is where coaching comes in, that conversation has to come about, okay, Mr. Edwards, here's what that means to be the guy, right? So let's cut to KD tape from his gold medals. Let's cut to Curry's world championships and NBA gold medals, NBA championships and so forth and so on. It's not just the bucket. It's the defense. It's leading us when we don't score for 3 straight minutes, getting us a great shot, whatever, digging in on defense. That's what these guys have got to learn to do. And if they do, they can be nice complementary players when our A team shows up is in Paris next year. They're coming to Paris. Yeah.
All right. So that walks us right into this perfectly. So, okay, we have this current team that's here right now. And as David mentioned, Travis, our editor, said, oh, if you could replace one player and put someone else on, who would it be? And David mentioned Steph or KD. He's like, I'll take both. How about we take both of them? And that's all well and good, right? And because the reality is that our 10 best players that are United States citizens who are eligible to play for us, all that. Now, there's a lot of funky stuff going on there. Joel Embiid can play for us, but we're not putting him in there because I would love to see him play for Paris because I want him and Gobert and Wemby to be on the same team. That'll be hilarious. So I'm just going to give you this right now, David. This is not even like position. I'm just going to go with the top 10 players in EPM that are USA born who could play for us in the Olympics. This is from last year's EPM. Dame, Jimmy, Kawhi, Steph, KD, LeBron, AD, Tatum, Kyrie, and Halliburton, who's already on this current team. Those are the 10 best American-born players in EPM last year. So you hear that list. What do you think?
8 of those 10 are on my top 10 list.
Of course they are. They have to be.
Yeah. You want to hear my starting 5? I did 2 groups. I don't know that I ranked them because you have the positions, right? So my backcourt is Curry and Harden. And here's what I want to get to that. Winning. So I wrote a business plan not too long ago. And the kind of the theme of the business plan is how does this business solve problems? Well, that's what stars do too.
Solve lots of problems.
This game's about solving. Yeah, we're trying to solve problems all the time. Our coaches are trying to do it, especially for our players. Harden is a problem solver. Big problem solver. He's seen every defense imaginable. He's made a million big shots before. He's dealt with pressure before. I don't know what his international record is. I'm sure it's very good. He's got some gold medal, yeah. So they're my backcourt. I've got 2 elite. Curry's such a better passer than people realize, and obviously the shooter. Harden shot 38+% last year from 3, and this shot's closer. So he's at 40% plus. And primary ball handlers, right? They can do everything. You can't post Harden, so we can switch them all you want. And then I've got my forwards are Bron and KD. And I'm just going to throw in AD at my center spot. So that alone, you have to remember we are America. So when you're facing opponents and they've got to see Steph, Harden, Bron, KD, and AD.
A lot of problem solving right there.
I mean, that's just, they're a little bit tight against those guys. And Bron, we're talking about elite passer. We got her shooting, we got her scoring. And with KD and LeBron and AD,
too much length and size.
we got the defensive stuff. Yeah, I think. And then so do you have a starting 5 or do you just list
I was 10, but I'll give you a 5. So like you, okay. But I went Steph, Dame, just because I'm like, that just gives us so much freaking shooting. So that now stretches the defense out so far, which now means behind them, AD, KD, and Bron going nuts back there. I don't care what.
So you got the same 3, 4, 5.
Going crazy back there.
So you have Dame over Harden. I get it.
Harden's on my team. He's in the second 5.
So Dame's on my second 5. So my second 5 is Dame and Kyrie. Yeah. I don't know if you put Kyrie in. He's a magical player, and teammates normally love him. These guys will all love him for sure. Problem solver, absolutely. So is Dame. And then I go with I really like my forwards on the second group of Tatum and Jimmy Butler.
I like
winners. Both guys, high-level defenders. Tatum gives us the third shooter. I don't even need shooting in my 4 and 5, but we know Butler can shoot. But we need a role player on that group, and he'd be. I think Butler would do that. And then my backup center is Triple J.
See, David and I are so in sync basketball-wise. I mean, that's my second 5. I'm just a switch with.
He's our best defensive player, and he can shoot threes at 35 from the NBA range, probably 38 to 40 international range. And we can play him with AD if we really wanted to. If we just wanted to get huge, we could go Triple J, AD, KD, and Bron with Curry and just be enormous.
Getting shots to the rim against that group.
Yeah, Braun is still able to really move. And in these events where you're not playing back-to-back, you got time to recover. I didn't put Kawhi in because he just hasn't played enough.
Yeah, so
he would be a top 10
he's on
player,
my thing
but
with a star
he's
because
just
he
not
hasn't played a ton,
played.
but I'm like, he's got to be on here. Now, here's the interesting thing.
He's incredible.
From this current team, you mentioned Triple J. The other person I have who could potentially make Paris in 2024, because so for David and I, when we did this, we're assuming all these guys are healthy, but everyone we mentioned has significant injury history and are old. So let's assume that, I don't know, Braun's not playing Olympics anymore, so that's done. By the way, Harden won Olympics in 2012 and World Championship gold in 2014. Halliburton, I think, can definitely make a case to be on the 2024 team for sure.
He'd be on my team. I just wouldn't be in my top 10. What do we carry? 12?
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I would have him just as the passer. Yeah, I really like, and Edwards probably too as a scorer.
So he'd make it. Henry mentioned someone who I think would be interesting to make it too. Mikal Bridges, the perfect player to play next to star guys. Oh, you want me to go run around, set screens, and flare out and play? Yep, no problem. Like that, you need that.
Yeah, no, he's a good fit
and
too.
Then
and knows how to play a role. Devin Booker, we left off.
Get into that now. Looking down the line for 2028, and again, even 2024, because all the guys I mentioned are not going to play in the Olympics. Like Bron, AD, KD, Steph, they're not. Kyrie, like they're just not.
Right. So Bron, so Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker,
Donovan Mitchell. You got, what are we doing with Zion and John Morant? I don't know but they're out there somewhere floating in the ether.
Have you seen a picture of Zion recently? Is that an accurate?
Nowadays, David, I never want to say anything for sure given the internet, but it seems
he looked really huge, right?
No,
but not fat.
Chiseled. Yeah. We'll listen. Yeah. None of that matters until October, whatever rolls around, and then we get to December and January and he's still playing. Then we can talk. But for now, whatever. And then you have that next tier, right? Of like the Desmond Bane, like that next grouping, right? These are 97th percentile guys. EPM Desmond Bane's a 41% 3-point shooter. Michael Porter Jr. Although if I'm him, I'm like, look, it'd be nice to play for my country, but with my back injury history, I should probably take the summer off and not play basketball. But we have so again, this is about our depth. I think we have so much to look forward to in the future. And I think for 2024, the right mix to me, and this is what the women's national team I thought suffered from this year. You need that right mix of the established people, but also that middle and that youth, right? A blend. And it's hard because it's voluntary. You can't make people go. They don't want to come. They don't want to come, right? So it's a very it's a tough thing. But I think if we have that nice mix of this guy's won 3 gold medals already, this guy's been on the last 2 World Cup teams, he's not ready to start for this one, right? It's if we have that nice blend, I think that's the ideal way to do it. I know that's how Steve and Grant want to do it, but it's hard to get that kind of ideal balance.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind if we sacrifice world championships and just focus on Olympics, or vice versa. I don't really care which one. Play the young guys in the first one, so that's a 3-year commitment. The year before the Olympics, or the year before World Cup, then the World Cup, then a year off in the Olympics. That little 4-year stretch is, and that let them lose the first round. If they do, the next time around they'll be more experienced. But none of it. I mean, I'm not nationalism, not a big deal to me, so I don't really care. Yeah. I'll watch the games with nothing else on.
To be fair, guys, like the FIBA experience matters. Like this is a different game than the NBA. Like I know it's basketball, but rules are different. Like it's just different, and you have to kind of get yourself adjusted to it. And a lot of these guys don't have a ton. They did when they were younger. Most of them played on the U20 team and U18 teams and all that. But
it's a big reason why they get picked now. The Team USA likes to take guys that have shown their willingness to spend some summers with us. With the team,
I think it'll be good, but it'll be exciting to see what the future of Team USA looks like as we move forward. All right, David, you have been watching Quarterback, the Netflix series, and I think you finished it, and you love it because
I did.
I'm going to tell everybody, Patrick Mahomes is David's new favorite athlete besides Max Thorpe and people that he coaches. His new favorite athlete in terms of leadership, and everyone knows for David, leadership is so important. It's breathing spirit into the hearts and minds of others. And yes, Mahomes is elite at football. Clearly, just watch him play. He is probably the most talented thrower of the football I've ever seen in my entire life. Now, is he going to win as many Super Bowls as Tom Brady? I don't know, but that don't matter. Talent, oozing with talent. But that's not even what David loves the most. It's how he inspires his teammates.
Yeah, Jimmy Johnson, who knows way more football than I do, he said to him, because he was mic'd up. Patrick was after they won the second Super Bowl. The quarterbacks, the last episode featured the Super Bowl, and Jimmy Johnson said, "You're the most talented player I've ever seen." Yeah, I get it. He's just magical. He really is. But yeah, it's what he does when he's not playing football that's so amazing. First of all, his work ethic's unbelievable.
To be that good.
It's incredible that what they do to their bodies to get prepared for games is incredible. The NBA can't do it because we play so many games. And then he just never stops. He's always just talking to his team, always getting them ready, always connecting with them. You can't play next to him and not feel a part of his journey because he's just ever present, always there, always there, always there. And I've really enjoyed this series. I don't really care so much about Mariota and Kirk Cousins. The Kirk Cousins stuff to me he's a very tough guy. What you have to go through a quarterback is impossible. But he's no Patrick Mahomes, which he knows. He knows he's no Patrick Mahomes.
He's a 1-on-1.
Yeah, Mahomes it's easy to root for a guy like that. That's super humble, puts his work in, but so loving to his team all the time. And just so much energy. I can't stress that enough, the value. I asked all my NBA guys that I helped to watch the show, and I have my son watch it. He watched the whole thing too before I did. Because if you want to be a leader, this is what it looks like. Whether you're a player or not, separate. This is what leadership looks like on the field.
And I think, it's interesting because in the doc, you're like, if the NBA did a show like quarterbacks, what position should we feature? And it's so interesting because in football, the quarterback is the leader just by default because they have the ball all the time. They're always touching it. They're the one getting everybody set. All right, here's the plays, what we're running. Like everything has to get run through them. It used to be like that in the NBA that the point guard was that guy, but that ain't the case anymore. Whoever your primary ball handler is, that's who's getting whatever. And that could be LeBron James. That could be Kawhi Leonard. That could be Kevin Durant. Like it's a Steph Curry. It's a variety of different types of people. On the 76ers, they're a whole separate issue right now for many other reasons. But Joel Embiid would say he's the leader of that team, right? So it's I don't know if you could do a position in the NBA because it'd be like you might get some duds, right? Or unless you pick like 3 people who this is going to be good, right? So if you do point guards, you do Chris Paul, right? Chris Paul stuff would be pretty interesting, right? You have the little general running around barking at people all day. That'd be hilarious. I would watch that because Chris is hilarious. You get a young guys. You get like Tyrese Halliburton, who we like a lot. If we get Anthony Edwards, not a point guard, but young lead guard guy for his team in Minnesota, that might be interesting.
They framed the series. Peyton Manning was on the first episode, saying it's the hardest position in sports. I don't know what's the hardest position in sports. I'm sure it's a very hard position. To me, the hardest position in the NBA is center. So I want them to do centers. I want them to do. Bam, do a superstar, right? Jokic, Embiid, do a Marcus Mariota version, and then Steven Adams or something like that. Yeah. Because I just think that there's such a challenge to this game for them. The way the game has changed, it's probably affected the center position most. They have to guard so much more space. They're asked to do more things offensively too frequently. Yeah, I'd love to see that. It won't happen because they played 2 games.
Jokic,
too many games.
Wemby, and Triple J.
Wemby's not even playing center. Nope.
All right.
And he wanted to play center for his team. But I understand what you're saying.
Triple J.
Yeah, very good. Love to see Walker Kessler. He's got a lot of upside. You
got the rookie? Or young guy?
Anyone who's and I'd want to see drop coverage guys. What the show didn't do as much X and O as I hoped for, but they did play, and I know enough to be able to catch some of it because I played the position and used to study the game pretty closely a long time ago. So I wanted to see more, but yeah, I'd like to see the average fan of the NBA doesn't understand just how challenging it is to play center in drop coverage or have to switch against these guys and. It'd be fun to be able to witness it, like in an episode.
So the way you have to do it would be we couldn't because regular season's too long. You have to do it playoffs because that's why you have breaks in between, right? And it's like, oh, we're switching up. Our playoffs would have to do it. Regular season, nobody's got it. That's not going to work. playoffs is when you do it. Now, problem is one of those dudes is probably not making the playoffs, so you have to find someone who's in a playoff team and going that way. But yeah, have to be playoffs because that's the only way you have breaks and no,
it'd be cool.
Listen, I'm sure the NBA is thinking of, at least I hope they are thinking of ideas.
Oh, I'm no doubt about it
to really push the game forward. All right, guys, we will be back on Thursday. Have a good day.